How about a Coppola Quick Facts?
Coppola Quick Facts. There's literally only a couple of facts here, true to our segment title. I couldn't find hardly anything on this movie, but part of that is probably because it just came out in our timeline. It just came out a couple of months ago. By the time this comes out, it'll be, I don't know, 2028 or something. There's only a few things, and I like forced myself to sit through the entire commentary to try and get more information, and I got like 2 more quick facts out of that, which tells you, if that tells you anything about how riveting the commentary was from our director, Brett Donahue. Brett Donahue. We'll get the biggest one out of the way first. The armorer on the shoot was Hannah Gutierrez Reed, who was blamed for a number of unsafe activities by the assistant director and Nicolas Cage. He was nearly had his eardrum ruptured by her. Like, she fired the gun right next to his head at one point.
Wow.
And he came out in defense after the news came out that I'll get to here. She was nearly thrown off set. Cage was very upset with her. And then her gig right after this was as the armorer on Rust. Just shot right after The Old Way. And is being investigated for the death of Helena Hutchins and injury of Joel Souza on the set for unsafe firing, firearm handling. Which I feel like, that's been talked to death out there in the world. But it's interesting to think that could have happened on this movie. We could have been talking about Nick Cage being the one who's shot the director and the DP of a movie. But Cage was very adamant about her being a complete nightmare on the set of this movie, and came out in defense of Alec Baldwin after that happened. So thankfully she will no longer be in movies, I would assume, right?
God, I hope, but who knows? Hollywood's trash, so they might just repurpose her somewhere else.
Ben Shapiro will hire her for his network. Big movie with Gina Carano.
Yeah.
God damn it.
As we said in the opening, this is the first traditional Western ever for Nicolas Cage, which is pretty crazy. I guess the Western is not really as popular of a genre as it used to be, but in 40 years of acting, he never did one Western.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. Did a lot of vengeance movies, but never vengeance in the West.
I mean, he was in the West.
Does he like Westerns? I wonder if it's maybe just he's not a fan of them.
Yeah, he's talked up, the ones that everybody goes to, like the Magnificent Seven, and there was a lot of talk about Tarantino kind of reinvigorating the Western a little bit. The Django Unchained and Hateful Eight. He said that he'd been wanting to do one for a while, and he ended up doing it back to back with Butcher's Crossing and this one. Which who knows when Butcher's Crossing is going to come out? It did premiere at TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival, last year, but it got pretty mixed reviews, and I wonder if they're giving it the Prisoners of the Ghostland treatment and re-editing it a little bit. It really worked out for Prisoners of the Ghostland.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that we might not see that one for a while.
Yeah. It took about 9 months before Prisoners came out after TIFF, so we'll see. I don't know. Noah LaGrosse, who plays our wonderful and engaging antagonist throughout this film, also played Nicolas Cage's son in A Score to Settle, so we'll get to see that dude chew some scenery again.
I don't think you'll see his name over a lot of marquees in the upcoming years.
He's like a acting coach, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was actually the acting coach for the little girl in the movie.
No, that's
Really?
wrong. That's actually
Is that wrong?
Dean Armstrong was
really?
the acting coach for her, who is her dad.
Oh, what the fuck? Okay. Well, then I read some bullshit facts then.
No, Dean Armstrong was was on set. He plays the mercantile at the beginning of the movie, which we'll get to. But yeah, I guess that leads me over to Ryan Kira Armstrong, who is our kind of driving force of the movie. I feel like we kind of see things through her eyes and become deadened to the world like she is as we go through this film. But she was actually the last girl to audition of over 500 kids for this role, and ended up. They said that her audition was so good that it could have ended up in the movie. But she was tapped to be in something Star Wars related. I don't remember what it was, but I think it was something that got canceled. One of those 800 movies that they had planned.
That doesn't really narrow it down.
They realized that we don't want a Star Wars movie every 6 months for the rest of time. How can you miss us if we never go away? But she was also in Firestarter, the remake. I'm like, come on, really? We need a remake of Firestarter? I guess you have to tell it for a new generation. Anyways. So she kind of got her big break there, and then American Horror Story was shot in only 18 days. And apparently when they first started shooting, they had 22 days. And as filming went along, the studio cut back 2 days. And they were like, okay, well, all right, I guess we'll make do. And then right before they finished filming, they were like, no, you got 2 less days again.
Oh, my God.
So they cut them down to 18 days. So the final act of this movie was supposed to be this big epic night filming where they would have rain and all sorts of stuff. And actually the interior of that brothel saloon that we're in for like 90 straight minutes, it feels like, was all supposed to be at night, and it was actually shot to be at night, and they had to fix it in the color grade and put VFX in the background so the windows would look like it was daytime outside. Yeah, so I can't even imagine, like, you have this whole movie planned out, and you have you've set aside 3 full days for the outside shots of the final act, and they are like, you get 1 day. So they had to really make do, and you can really tell in that final act of like, wow, this is the most boring conclusion we could have possibly had to a guy who's been painted as a badass for this entire movie. And then he does all of his killing off screen for final act. God love him for getting it done and making something coherent, but like, man, it really suffers from not having enough time. I really feel like if they would have had a little bit more time, we could have had a better ending to this movie. And then the final quick fact here is while they were filming next to Yellowstone. This is actually Yellowstone Ranch, which is only like 2 or 3 miles from the entrance of the park. And apparently up in the mountains is right next to where the homestead is that we see with Cage and Ruth and the kid. There were tons of bears up in that mountain, and they had to have some dude with a dog on set the entire time watching for bears because they kept strolling in.
Goddamn.
Could have been a more interesting movie, just have a bear attack right at the beginning.
Just leave it in. Keep the camera going.
Got to get that Revenant money.